How you guys doing? My name is Josie Carr, and thank you for stopping by Planet1wp. Today, I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do with you guys. So I figured, what the hell? Let's find out how many audio interfaces we can use for Logic, right? There might be cases when we have one audio interface that only has two inputs and two outputs, and we have kind of another interface laying around, and maybe we can use it to be able to record more things at the same time. Or maybe if we're working in a live situation, we can send the first audio interface to the front of the house, and then the back one, the other one we use to monitor. Or we can do the same thing for studios, right? It'd be kind of neat if we can do that. So I figured, why not play around with that today and show you guys how to do that. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and let's make sure that I get that popping. Cool. So first of all, let me show you guys what two interfaces I'm going to use first of all, right? So I'm going to use my machine, and I'm going to use my audio 10 that's over there that has 8 inputs at one time, and the machine MK2 has 2 at a time. So we'll be using those two. Cool, and I'll share my screen with you guys one more time. Cool. So right now what we have here is I'll play something for you guys, and let me just check, because I said I would be doing better with chats, so I'm gonna just keep it open so I can actually pay attention. Okay, fantastic. Cool. Okay, right on. One of my day ones in the house. Love it. Hi, how are you? Good to see you coming on. Right on. Love it. Love it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's do it. This is Logic. And the first thing that we have to do, we all know that if we go into the preferences, right, and we'll do file preferences here, and the main one, we'll go to audio. Okay, and here's where we tell Logic what audio interface we're gonna use. Right now I have one called aggregate device, which I made, and that's how we're gonna get multiple devices. But this is your input, what you're gonna use for input. I can use my track to audio 10, and it will limit me just to 8. I can use my machine, and it will limit me just to 2. I want to combine those two together and create what is known as an aggregate device, so then I can use both of them simultaneously with Logic, right? But before we can do that, we have to actually do that in the audio MIDI setup of our computer. Okay, so if you're using a Mac, I'm using a Mac in particular. I'm not sure how an aggregate device is done on a PC, but I'm quite sure it's searchable on YouTube or anything else. So yeah, let's go to the main menu here, and if you guys go into your applications folders, you guys will be able to find it. But from the main menu up here, if you go to utilities, it takes you right to the utilities folder. Okay, and you guys can go in there and grab what is known as the audio MIDI setup right here, known as short AMS. I just keep it on my dock personally because I use it all the time. So you'll see it here on my dock. It looks like a piano. So we'll click on that, right? And this first thing we have to do, it's over here on the left-hand side, is hit the plus sign, right? And it's going to ask you to create an aggregate device or a multi-output device. The difference between them is that the multi-output device only gives you additional outputs to use, right? With 2, but not inputs. So we need both inputs and outputs. So therefore, we're going to create an aggregate device. So create one, and it will create one for you. You can give it a name, by the way, up here. If you click on it, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it the 2 interfaces that you have or whatever. I'm just going to leave it as a default, so it'll be easier for you guys to follow along. And here on the right-hand side, once you create it, you can open it up here. And you can see that I have 2 of them, right? But on the side, it's going to open up, and it's going to ask you, what would you like to use together? What 2 interfaces? Well, I said I want to use my Tractor 10. I put a check mark next to it, and my machine MK3 as well, and I put a check mark to it. Now next to it, it has this thing that's known as a drift, which means who's going to be the master. Well, my master is going to be Tractor 10. That means that it's going to keep my sample rate and my bit rate, you know, and anything else that I use with it is going to slave to it. So the machine MK3 is being used as a drift connection. In other words, it's going to slave to whatever clock Tractor has. Just in case you wanted to know that. It's not that critical, but now you know, okay? Once we've done that, we can quit the audio MIDI setup or AMS. Okay, now we can go back to, hold on, let me make sure you guys are actually seeing that. Oh yeah, fantastic, cool. So I can quit out of that. And then again, we go to project, preferences, we go to audio setup here. And we go to the devices and make sure that your input device now is aggregate device, remember, because now you have two devices you can use at once. And then the output as well. Cool. So once we're done with that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Look at me, I can count. I have 9 inputs simultaneously happening, and I needed an additional one, and I use the MK3 for it, right? So if I go here to the first one, okay, you can see that the input now that I have available are the 8 from the tractor audio, okay, and the 2 that are from the machine. You can label your inputs and outputs if it gets confusing for you, and I'll show you how to do that quickly. But for now, I have track number 4. The input is number 4 in my tractor, number 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I have 9 and 10. And then I have the additional one that I needed that I'm using for this little small pocket operator. And this one, the output of it, is going into my machine. Okay, so if I play it, you guys can see that it's playing, and the input of it, you guys can see, is the machine VC1. I should actually call it machine, name it machine. Okay, so now I can stop it. And if I were to hit play, actually, let me play that for you guys. And if I were to hit play on the machine, since these are already set up for inputs, you guys will hear that as well. And I'll move over there and I'll turn some things off, okay? And this one is still going to the machine. I don't have it synced up, so I have to stop this one manually. Cool, so that's basically all you need to do to be able to use multiple inputs, devices, audio devices with Logic. Create an aggregate device in the audio MIDI setup that is part of the main setup in your computer. Okay, you can name it whatever you want by clicking on it and give it a name if you want to. And now I'm going to show you guys how to label the inputs, okay? Because I think you need to do that. I do a lot of things, so mine are not labeled correctly right now, but I'm going to correct them in front of you guys, okay? So for that one, we need to go into the mix window, and you need to go into IO labels, okay? And you can see here on the right side, you can label them. Like I said, the Tractor 10 has 8 inputs in the back and 2 main inputs in the front. The front ones, you see that I call them Tractor Audio, main left and main right. Okay, and if I scroll down, you guys to see that I have input number 3 and 4 in the back, and they're labeled Tractor Audio 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. And VC is the one I need to actually change to machine, right? So why don't I do that? I'll call it machine 1 and 2. It's stereo, so therefore it'll be 1 and 2, and then I have to do the mono ones at the bottom, right? And maybe at the top. Maybe they're not at the bottom. They're actually at the top. Mono, and the bottom is stereo. So here, let's find this one. That is machine input 1, right? Because this is stereo, so the left side will be 1 and the right side will be 2. And let me spell machine the way they spell it, or the way anyone spells it. Cool. So now once you label them there, you're fine, because now you'll be able to see them here. Input, track the audio, the main one in the front and the 8 in the back, and then machine 1 and 2, because we're on a stereo track. And if I were to create a mono track, by clicking the 0 here, you will see that I will have the 2 available tracks, machine 1 and 2. Okay, and then you can knock yourself off and do a bunch of inputs and output. Today is going to be a short tutorial because I'm ready to do something really cool for you guys, and I've been taking a lot of time to work on that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it, and there's a lot to learn from it. So again, as I always do in every episode, I'm going to give you guys a quick review of what I did. The first thing I wanted to do was be able to use more than one audio interface with Logic, because I wanted to possibly maybe record 12 things at one time in my audio interface. The first one that I have, the track the audio, only allowed me to do 10 things at a time. I needed 2 additional inputs. So I have another audio interface, which is the Machine MK3, right? And I decided to use that as well to be able to have those additional 2 inputs to use with Logic. The first thing I needed to do was to create an aggregate device, and we do that in the audio MIDI setup of the Mac. Okay, I have it on my dock, but if you're looking for it the long way, go into the Applications folder, Utilities, and look for Audio MIDI Setup. Okay, once you do that, you can open it up. And here at the bottom is where you're going to create an aggregate device. Okay, and I have it here. And inside, you open it up, you'll see which ones you want to use are the ones you checked. Okay, and if the main one for me, example, is track the audio 10, that's the boss. It has a lot of inputs and outputs, obviously. I'm just going to set this drift MK3 check mark so it follows the clock and the sample rate that track the audio 10 is using. Cool. Once I'm done with that, I'm good. I'm going to close it. By the way, again, you can label it by clicking on it and give it a name. Okay, we can call it, I'll call it episode 29. Okay, so we're good. Then the next thing you do is you go to Logic, you go to Logic Preferences, you go to Audio, okay? And you see how it changed the name, right? So we're going to reset that. Okay, episode 29, and so you will set it. Okay, let me reset it right there, okay? By the way, if you open up your audio like I did there and I saw those 2 parentheses, that means that it's not seeing the audio interface, and I just reset it by reselecting it. Okay, that's my device there. Apply it. It's going to reinitialize your audio interface, and we are good. Okay. And then here you're going to be able to take your track, and if you're doing a mono track, you click on it and you'll see that I have tracked the audio 1 and 2 in the front and the ones in the back, and also my machine as input as well. Okay, that is my track the audio 10, and I use this one for the machine. So now I can record more than 10 things at a time. And I took it one little step further, and that was to actually label the inputs and outputs. And we do that by going to the mix window, input and output labels, and labeling the mono ones on top, clicking on it and labeling, and the stereo ones at the bottom. Cool. That's pretty much it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Very short, like I said, very useful information. Again, multiple reasons why you want to use it. You need more inputs and more outputs. And also, you might be working an outside gig where you're doing sound, and you can send one interface to the front of the house and use the one in the back to monitor what you are sending to the front of the house. You can use it if you're recording in one room and someone needs to listen to their own mix as well. So there's many different ways you can use it for. Again, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Again, my name is Josie Carr, and I hope to see you guys next week. Stay tuned. I'm going to bring you guys some really cool, interesting stuff. But for now, thank you so much. Have a good night. Ciao.